So this video is about accessing my resources. At the time this video was recorded, I'm working for Mountain Vista High School. So this is the uh, website for the school, and I'm using it to show that I will always post the link to my website in the school's website. And I also sent the link through Sally and through email at the beginning of the year. And if you join a class later, I make sure to send that email to you as well, so you have the way to get there. So if you go in the website and you go to teachers and pick the subject science, you should get a list of everybody that teaches at the school. Now, currently, I don't have a picture, but I'm squeezed between the department head and the PLC leader for the physics department, which is Mark McConnell. And so I don't have a picture yet, but I'm there. And there's my email as well, and you have a link to my website. So if you hit the website, it will take you to this Resource Hub page. Now, on that Resource Hub page, it talks a little bit about who I am. It has my contact info, my schedule, a little biography. It will also have a little bit of my educational philosophy, pictures of the things that I'm interested in, and some favorite quotes. Who cares about that, though? What you want to do, though, is click on your class. And once you do that, you never have to come to this page ever again. So let's say you are a chemistry student. Now, the resources look very similar for both classes. So whether you're in chemistry or in physics, a lot of it will be very similar. It's just the content is slightly different. So it will open this page, right, which is the main resource page. Yeah, open this up full screen so you can see a little bit better. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on over here, but these are basically the most important links and resources that you will use throughout the year. I'm going to walk you through really quick. This very first one, I'm going to make a special video about it, which is the student introduction tasks. It talks about the first things you should do when joining the class. But there's going to be another video about that. There's also going to be another video about the work gallery, which is another important link you're going to use all the time. As far as the syllabus, I'm not going to make a video about that, right? So I'm going to click on it right now so that you can just quickly see how the syllabus looks like. This video lecture series that I have recorded is basically a virtual syllabus that walks you through this entire thing. If you look at the lecture series and compare it to the index of the syllabus, you will see that basically I cover these things in the lecture series that this video is a part of. Now, in the syllabus, one thing I wanted to show you is, aside from explaining everything about the class and how it works, there's also a link at the very end that says course, scope, and sequence. And that's important, and I want to show it to you. So once you go in there, you can actually click on any of the units of the year, which are listed in order. So the first unit, for example, is Chemistry is All That Matters. Now, at the time this is being recorded, this is still in progress. I'm still building this part of the syllabus. But by the end of the year, it will be all completed. Now, if you click on the unit of interest, it will take you to the details of the unit, and it will break things down by topic. It will list the standards that you need to know for the topic, the essential questions, which are all the things you should know about the topic. It will also have vocab lists for everything that's important for the topic, right? And it would then break down the order of things. So it will tell you the virtual textbook, what chapter you need to access. It will tell you where in my resources, what part of my resources you can find information about that topic. It will give you a list of steps that you have to complete if you're doing modeling. It will give you a list of steps to complete if you're doing mastery. It will give you a link to the project-based learning if there is a project-based learning for the topic. It will give you the challenge or authentic chemistry activity for this topic. It will tell you how many days you're supposed to spend on the topic and when should be the last day you finish the topic if you're trying to keep up with the class pace. And then the process repeats itself for the next topic. So this is the most important file that you're going to use in the class. It is your guide to what you need to know, to your goals, into the steps you have to take, whether you're doing mastery, project-based learning, modeling, or whatever. So it also can serve as a study guide because it has the list of all the vocab and all the essential questions that you should know. So it is an incredibly useful file. You should save it as your favorite. You should store this on your Google Drive. you should access this all the time. Now, in the physics one, looks very similar in structure. You also have this class policies and procedures file. Now, I wouldn't actually read this whole thing. You live in the state of Colorado or wherever it is that I'm teaching right now. Hopefully, I'm going to be teaching Colorado for the rest of my life, but you never know. Now, this also has active links, but they only work if you download the file because they're not. It's a Word doc. It doesn't live in Google Drive. Now, the class policy procedures are like a rule book for the class. It explains the way I teach, all my methodology and stuff like that. But I wouldn't read this unless I wanted to. So if you're curious, like, oh, what's Mr. Lima's homework policy? Oh, what's Mr. Lima's policy about the use of electronic devices? Or how does he grade? Etc., etc. Kind of like what I did in this video, right? In this video series. Now, I will use this only as a resource if I ever get curious or I need some evidence, some basic evidence that, oh, Mr. Lima, but you said you did things this way. Now you're telling me something else. So I think of this as like in Colorado, you probably have a penal code, a rule of all the things you can or cannot do, and if you do, you end up in jail, right? Now, that's a bad example because it's like punitive in nature. This is not so punitive. This is just explaining what I do. But even if you don't read the penal code, it still applies to you. So just know that you don't have to read this, but this is how I roll. So a better example is when you play a video game, you install it. You always have to agree to the terms of service. Even if you don't read it, you are agreeing to it, right? So it's kind of like to protect the seller. In the same manner, this is to protect me as a teacher. I'm explaining everything about the way the class works. And it also serves as a resource that I can point students to if they have a question about how the class works, so I don't have to repeat myself over and over again. The next resource that's awesome is this assignment guide, but I'm going to record a separate video about that, so just watch that video if you're interested. The next resource is about the collaborative classroom. It explains how and what you should proceed if you're participating on that. But I have a video about that as well, so you can watch that if you're interested. The next resource is the do now and warm up reflection links, right? So these links is every day when you come to class, you have something to do while I'm doing attendance, I'm doing business and stuff like that. So once we start using this, and I'll let you know when we do, you're going to log into this almost every day to complete that activity, right? So, and it's pretty self-explanatory, so I don't have to go in it and explain it. Once you click it and use it for the first time, you're going to have a head gist of what you have to do and why. Certain parts are required, certain parts are extra. That's kind of how it works. Likewise, a lot of times at the end of class, I will have you do an exit ticket form. I do that so that I know what you've learned in that class and so that we can reflect each day on what we accomplished. So I'll usually spend the last 5 minutes of class or so doing that. And once you finish it, I'll usually let you get out of the room, right? So that's kind of how that works. Now, these are things you use all the time. So that's why I put them in class operations. Now, these other things is other websites, which are not my websites, or that you usually are going to be using a lot. So in the case of chemistry, there's Mastering Chemistry, which is where the textbook portal is. There's also tutorials there, extra credit quizzes, extra credit practices that you can do. And so it's very useful, and I use that a lot, and I recommend that you use it as well. There's also Sally, which is the way we communicate. It's used both as a chat room and as a notification system for me to send announcements throughout the year. We also use to share assignments, a lot of variety of different ways. If you're in my class from the very start, you know what that is and how that goes. There's also Gizmos and PHETs, which are simulation websites, and they're my favorite simulation websites. So I love using those websites either to do extra practice or to understand the process better. Basically, you're able to do virtual labs and play with the physics or play with the chemistry and try to understand things better. And sometimes you can't do certain things in class, or we didn't have time to do it in class, so you can use those. Then there's also the Student and Parent Portal, where you can log in to see your grades, and the Mastery Tracking Sheet, where you can log in to track your points in the game design that I talked about. I'm going to do a video about that, though, so we can watch that one if you're interested about that. The next set of resources is the main content resources. Now, this is very important. This is how you can find all the stuff that you need to actually do well in the class if you want to get additional teaching, right? Now, I will talk more about these in another video, so watch that if you're interested in the resources that you can use to study for the class. Here's again things that you can use to track your progress in class. So this is the same thing. These were also listed in another place. The same tracking sheet, the same student portal. To go to the bathroom, you have to log on the hall pass log. There's usually be a computer at the entrance of the room that I use for that. But you can also use your own personal cell phone device to access that log and then check out the bathroom pass. If you don't use the bathroom and your name is never in that log, you can sometimes earn bonuses. So that's how I use that log. And if I decide to use that log in your class, I will tell you that. When we do group work, sometimes, not all of the times, but we do involved group projects, longer ones, I will usually have you guys complete this group work evaluation form, which is basically a way to grade each other and to grade yourself in your performance in working within the group. And there's also some other kinds of tracking sheets that I will have students use. Students will struggle with the system. I often told to keep better track of what their study habits are like, and that's where you will find those. Last but not least, I have general support stuff on the class. This one is really awesome. It talks about how to study for chemistry or physics, depending on what your class is. It also talks, there's another one here that is study skills, general study skills that all the students should have. Good stuff to read at some point. This next one is how to write lab reports. A bunch of information about how to do that. The first time you do that, you should definitely go through it. I also have a lecture series about that you can watch. There is this one, which is all about academic language support. I also have a lecture series about that, which it helps you participate in discussions and talk in classroom. And finally, scientific writing support, which we use for essays, and I also have a lecture series about that. Okay, so these are the main resources you can use throughout the year. Now, you don't have to click and use all of this and get overwhelmed with it from the start, but when and if you need it, this is where everything is. All right. So if you need more information about one of these links, you can either just play with it or watch a lecture series about that resource.